Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today we are doing a very special top 10 with someone who I have been panning to collaborate with for a little bit, right?
Aww.
I started by like sending you a message on Instagram, being like, big fan, ran into each other at PAX, and then, for some reason, she decided to drive 15 hours in the snow to come hang out for a weekend. We filmed a bunch of videos, so there's a lot more content on the road coming down. So, welcome to Quackalope. I assume some of your fan base is here.
I hope so. Hello, everyone.
This is Professor Meg for any of the audience here at Quackalope. There'll be a link at the very top of this video description over to your Instagram community, which is really your main profile.
Yes.
Now, she's not going to brag about herself or tell you to go follow, subscribe, all that nonsense, but what I can tell you about her and what you do is, one, she creates fantastic photography around the board game space, usually like in connection, but also two things that I've discovered about you. One, we were talking about how long we've been in the hobby.
Yes.
And I'm like 5 years old in the industry, and one of those years is Kingdom Death dedicated.
In the comments below now, let me know how old you think I am.
No.
Try to guess.
She has been in the industry since early 2000s.
Yeah, in the industry since 2008.
Yeah.
Playing TCG games and stuff like that, and board gaming since 2010.
And your name comes from being a real-life Pokemon professor.
I took the exam.
Just gonna throw that out there. Super cool. She has the jacket, the cards, everything. And then the second thing that I've learned, which I actually didn't know about your profile before, and I think is really cool, every photo you have on your profile, every description, every video, every list, every game you recommend, it's not just a game you have that you're taking photos of. Right. You've played, reviewed, tested, and they might not all be perfect for you, but you can at least stand by and have a conversation and talk about every single one of those.
Yeah.
And for me, Instagram is one of those things where I browse photos more than engage in like comments or read things. But for the YouTube community here, go check out her entire profile and read the descriptions and do so with the context that like you can stand by everything you put up.
Absolutely. And feel free to ask me questions. I answer a lot of messages, so if you also have questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram. That's what I do. And I also have a lot of like cosplay and dress up, so if you guys like seeing that kind of stuff, seeing the characters come to life, I love doing that. So.
Cool. So with that being said, for those of you that are from her community,
Please subscribe.
I'm a random duck that does board game stuff, and I'm super excited to be able to share her top 10 list with a lot of people. So I have a question for you before we start swinging into this, because this is big. This is your first ever top 10 list. Okay. Yeah. What was your mindset going into creating a top 10? Because I sent the idea over. You said, no, that's impossible. 5 minutes later said, I've got it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is that I don't like ranking things. I don't like making lists. I like having a bucket of things that I enjoy, and I compare certain games to others when I start to think about a certain mechanic. I don't like ranking, but somehow I do log all of my collection on BGG, so that makes things really easy. And I honestly pulled it up and thought of the ones that I love, that I know in and out, that I wouldn't ever need to look at the rule book, and it wasn't hard. There were some that bubbled. There were a few. Lost Winds of Arnak is a runner-up.
You said it was a floater?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
But
cool. All right, should we dive in?
Yeah.
Number 10.
Number 10. My number 10 game is one of my oldest, one of my deepest loves, Talisman. Talisman is from Fantasy Flight Games. I want to say I first played it, had to be like 2011.
Can I flip the box over?
Absolutely.
Or will it all scatter?
You can still flip it. It's fine. Nothing in there is too crazy.
Oh, I didn't hear anything like completely
I think they're in
shattered.
box. But so, should I explain Talisman?
Yeah, because I have no idea what this is.
Oh, it's so fun. So you are playing against each other. A lot of the games you'll see coming up are co-op, so this is one of my only non-co-op. There's a couple, but one of the only ones. And you play as I compare it to D&D, and it's nothing like D&D, but it's flavored like it. So there are different things you can play as, like a knight, a priest, a mage, and then there's this board, and it's a bunch of layers. So you start off on the outer ring, you have to gain resources and do things to eventually be able to move to the inner ring, and then once you get to the very center, you can do a thing called a killing curse, and you just try to kill the other players. And really, the thing I love the most about this game is that it's completely about the journey. I don't really care if I win, and this is one of those games that I want to play continuously. I don't want to get to the finish part. The playing part is what I love. So, yeah.
Now, this is one that you've repeatedly told me that you were nervous about having. Because, like, I know everything else on the top 10 list.
Yeah.
And this one you're like, a lot of people don't like this game.
I'm pretty sure Tom Vassell doesn't like it.
Well, I mean, and his opinion would tie to a lot of people, I suppose.
Yeah.
What is it that people don't find charming about this game that you don't think has credence? Or maybe you think it has credence, it just doesn't bother you.
So, I'm honestly not sure. I know people don't love it. I haven't super looked into why. I think a big part of it is that when you're moving around the board, you roll a die, and depending on the spot you're on, say you roll a 4, you can move 4 left or right, and that's it. And I think a lot of people don't like that it's based on die rolls and that.
Older style of design.
Right, but to me, I really like storytelling elements, and the thing that randomly puts you in a certain place, that's what I enjoy, because that's where your character was meant to be and not like where you decided.
Cool. Talisman, the magical really quest game by Fantasy Flight, is number 10. Number 9, where are we going? What are we pulling next?
Number 9 is...
scattered around here somewhere.
A newer one for me. I mean, not super new. I've been gaming so long. This one I've had for about 2 years. Enish.
It's newer. That's like half my career. Great.
I love Enish. This is another one where it's a area control. You're trying to meet certain thresholds in one of the certain win conditions, and there are different ways to do it, but your actions are all based on cards that you draft, which I love. And I was telling Jesse my favorite thing, I love this at 2-player, so we're going to try it out at a higher player count later.
I think we're doing 4-player, so this is one of the games that Shira loves, Alex loves. I haven't been convinced about yet, but I understand why people love it so much.
Yeah.
I'm excited to dive back in, especially with a group of people that know it and really like it. It's Alex loves it at 4, but hasn't really played it at 2. And you're the counter. You love it at 2, but haven't really explored it much at 4. So I'm curious what you think.
I love it at 2 because you're drafting the cards, and those are all of the actions, and there's, you basically know all the available actions that players can do, and I love memorizing all of them and knowing what I love playing my card based on what I think someone else is going to play, which I think will be so much harder at 4-player. I feel like I'll just have to make my own choices and not try to counteract things, which is hard.
That's interesting. Me. Yeah, I will have to try this with Shira at 2, because she also absolutely adores this one. And it's the drafting in this that you like the most,
I love it
right?
the most, yeah. That's why I love it. It's also really cleanly done. I think it's a very smooth game that, the drafting is the funnest part for me, but it all feeds into itself really well. Cool. And it's beautiful. Look at this art.
It is lovely.
It's gorgeous.
It is lovely. So that's Enish, I think. I never quite get it right. From Matagot is number 9.
All right, and then I think...
What are we grabbing?
Oh...
Is it tucked here?
I will do our runner-up now. Or not our runner-up, we have one not here.
We do have one not
here.
here.
There is one that was not able to make it. We may pop it up. I have a friend borrowing it. I have a friend
It's the
playing
best
it,
reason
for
a top 10 to not be in a collection. It's because people have it. We'll pop up a graphic here. Probably.
It is The Adventures of Robin Hood. That one's by Kosmos. I only played it, I want to say all of December. We played it very quickly. We played it in about 2 weeks. I think it's maybe 8-ish scenarios. It's story-based. It's a really beautiful, fun game. It surprised me. It was, as someone who especially plays heavier games, the only components are the board, a bag of wooden tokens, and your little meeples, and that's it. And you have a novel instead of a book, and the novel, you turn to certain pages, and it's like very much choose your own adventure. It's a surprise and a treat. It's not super complex, but I think because of that, you can really just live through the story.
The cool thing is the board develops as you play, right? Like you're flipping these little chits on the board that pop back in, and depending on the decisions you've made, everything starts transforming. And there's adventures or narrative pathways that get completely locked out because you just didn't decide to do things.
And even because we finished it, there are some things toward the end where you start feeling like you're comfortable with the game, and it uses those hidden things to surprise you with stuff that you didn't expect. It's very cool. It's very cool.
Alex played it with his daughter Ricky, and the one thing he told me, because he didn't want to spoil it anyway, because I still want to try it out at some point, he said the game at a certain point made us both emotionally feel something. Yeah. And that's a big deal. Like, not a lot of games do that. Yeah. So, cool. I like it. I like it at number 8. Number 7.
Number 7.
I have this tucked here, too. I don't know which one you're hunting for.
Yeah, we'll do
this one first. We had them all stacked.
We'll do this one first, and then we'll go down. Number 7 is Dead of Winter.
Caveat, this is my copy. Which is why it's I've owned this game for so long, with back and forth between getting rid of it, playing it, never playing
it.
No. As you can tell.
Oh, I thought maybe at someone's house or something.
No, I just loved the idea of it, but I've never found a way to get off the table. So tell me
Shout out to my
why
friends at Plaid
it
Hat
should be here.
Games. Plaid Hat is also awesome. They have a crossroads system in Dead of Winter, which is really great. So Dead of Winter, you start with certain characters, but throughout the game you can acquire a lot more. And as you do that, there are crossroad events that, say it was your turn, I would read the card, and I don't read it out loud, and it'll say, if so-and-so moves to the grocery store this time, then this triggers.
No.
So certain things will start happening because of what you do, and sometimes I've had that same thing where it would move and I would be like, oh my god, and there's a dog in it named Sparky, and Sparky like came to join my team because of what I did. It's really, really fun that you really feel the story again. I think that's my favorite thing about games. But a huge thing that I love about Dead of Winter is the table presence that it has, that you start off with zombies everywhere. You start off where you already think you're not going to survive, and they only get worse. They pile up. It's insane. And there's also a traitor mechanic, so you think someone else could also be working against you. It's overwhelming from the beginning. And I think it's done really well. It's done in a way that I think not many games make me nervous.
What does it play best at?
I enjoy it a lot at 2. I say I
Okay.
normally play 2, so I wish I had better experience with more
sure.
players. I normally almost do 2.
But that informs your play. Like, that's your play group.
And with 2, there's no traitor.
And a lot of people over the last 2 years, believe it or not, have had a lot of 2-player games. Or solo.
Yeah.
It's been one of those seasons. Interesting.
It is funner with more people. I've played it with higher players.
I mean, can I get you, like, locked in, whether it's this trip or sometime in the future, that you will teach me how to play this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think we could even play it quickly.
Really?
Not, like, super quickly, but
what's an average playtime, you think?
I think we could do an hour if it was just us.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I think we could.
Okay. You have me super compelled. The hidden traitor mechanic is something that I'm not always convinced about, and it is
so
the thing.
So there's no traitor at 2-player, though.
Interesting.
And that's why I have a better time with it, I think, is that at only 2-player there is no traitor.
Because that's the thing that I've heard more controversy, like hit and miss on this game. But what compels me is your love of story combined with like what you're just describing on like story events that trigger that you don't quite know how they're going to actually like happen. I like that.
It's so fun.
Sounds fun. It sounds cool. And Plaid Hat does some absolutely incredible work.
Yeah, they really do.
So to be fair to them, I just recognized a few games that I had no idea were Plaid Hat. Like I didn't even actually consciously realize this is Plaid Hat. Plaid Hat being associated with a thing.
Stuffed Fables.
But Plaid Hat being associated with a thing now is grown in my mind to be like, you get 20% more credit. Like, whatever it is, I don't care how interested I am. Plaid Hat's there, great. I'm a little bit more intrigued.
I trust it
I'm a little bit more in,
Absolutely.
That was number 7.
Yes.
Number 6.
Number 6 is a huge favorite. Spirit Island by Greater Than Games. Greater Than Games I adore. They're one of the first publishers I knew about, and I played Spirit Island as soon as it came out. I think I may have demoed it at PAX before it even came out, which is crazy now. But
that is insane.
Yeah, it really is, thinking back.
It's awesome.
It really is. But yeah, Spirit Island, it's really unique. I mean, the concept is unique that you're playing as spirits of the island and you are protecting your own inhabitants and you are fighting against the incoming militia that's trying to I can't think of the word, but they're trying to take over and...
Yeah, it's a colonized game.
Colonized.
So there's the Dahan, I believe, is the island population. You're playing as kind of the spirits of this island, right? Protecting the native people there from colonizers. And it really is themed around that. Like the people that are coming are like the British troops or the Spanish forces. And it's sort of a retelling of history if you took a bit of a different approach to it. Eric Roos talks a lot about that when it comes to the design philosophy. But it makes a absolutely fascinating, like it's hand management, a tiny bit of like deck building, and really, really great action control and like resource management with the limited actions you have.
And again, this one you play as different spirits, so it's asymmetric player powers, which can also be really fun. I do normally play it at 2 players, so I think we really enjoy is finding what spirits work really well together, because some really don't. And sometimes it can be a really tough game, but when they have good synergy, it's really a beautiful game.
I think this game has more opportunities or more situations where I feel insanely powerful while also still feeling like the game's going to beat me than almost any other thing. And it's, like you said, fantastic at 2, great cooperative game, but also really, really fascinating solo puzzle if you're playing double-handed or playing with one spirit and going up against the forces. So
often this one will give me the feeling of I got this turn. I know I have this.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to get through the whole game, though.
Yep, absolutely. Slide that over this way. And I think, is this the next one?
Yeah, we're going straight down now.
Okay. Oh. Ascension. Realms of the Unraveled?
Yes, so this
took me way too long to read that.
I brought an expansion in case we do end up playing it.
Okay.
But I have quite a few Ascensions. It started with the base game. This is by Stoneblade.
Tactics.
Yes.
I just covered Tactics.
Yes.
I know the core concept of this game. Cool.
Maybe.
I'm there. Well, not
it's
quite.
Newer.
Not quite.
Yeah.
Tactics is the miniature version of this. Sorry for taking that. It just clicked. That was a good moment for me. Not as good for the rest of you. Please continue.
There's also Ascension Tactics. So, kind of cool, but Justin Gary made this game, and he started with Magic, so he took a lot of that and put it into the game, and starting as a TCG player, this was my second game, really, that I ever started with. I went really deep into it. Deck building made a lot of sense to me. As someone who played TCG games, things like the mechanics of stacking and certain things triggering other things. I really love reading cards and rules and how they interact. And as like any deck builder, the more cards you get, the more complicated it gets, and then you can have those really beautiful turns. It's a super clean deck builder. It's so well done, so well fleshed out. If you're interested in deck builders and you haven't checked this one out, it's just such a smooth introduction. And I think it's a great gateway game too, that there are so many expansions. You can have someone easily learn the base game. It's not too bad, and then you can keep adding to it so that they can, learn and become a heavier gamer without realizing you're doing that to them. I think it's just really well fleshed out. It's smooth. I've never had it feel clunky. It's great.
Yeah, I high on my list to try, because the reason I got excited is I really liked Ascension Tactics, and it was built off of the base of the card game, right? It was built off the base of that deck building card game, except this time, instead of just powers and abilities and triggering effects and like taking down the other units, you're actually maneuvering and which I thought was done really well. I had a chance about 2 years ago when it was first coming out to meet with a team there over at Gamma, awesome. And sit down and play with them and get a demo. But it didn't click until right then. I've heard fantastic things. This is a well-loved deck builder. So
it's great.
Cool.
It really is. All
right.
These make me so happy.
I love it. What else do we have back here?
Are you ready for the top 3?
Well, no, because this is still here. Where does this fit in? Where does this fit in? We've done this stack, and now we're still looking. We're still looking at the stack.
We're not ready for the top 3. We'll grab this one.
Okay.
We'll see if Jesse can pick this up.
Please excuse me.
I also have an accessory.
Oh! And this one is not tipping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing this around. Now, I know this looks like a black box of death that most of my fans would be familiar with. It's not.
No.
It's a brand new black box of death.
And I can't fit in this box.
Oh, because it's the way it opens?
Because it's full of stuff. I can't even sit in it. I know.
How rude of them.
They weren't thinking of me.
This is...
Sentinels of the Multiverse. One of my first board gaming loves. It's co-op. It's a card game where you're all playing as different heroes and you're working together against a villain deck with an environment deck. The environment deck can help or hurt you depending on what it is. And that's basically it. This is also by Greater Than Games. So shout out to, if you know Spirit Island, which is one of their newer games, this is one of their very first games. And it's just done so well. I love it. I really do. They made all of their own characters, so... It's
a comic book world that is designed for the game, right?
Yeah.
Like, every character has their own special backstory, comic issues, backgrounds, abilities, and the fan community here is insane, because there's, like, a bunch of obsessed people that have made cards, stories, scenarios.
Yeah.
It's really remarkable, the degree of investment that has been put into this. I know because I had a friend that we showcased this box, and just spent 20 minutes with him talking about it. I've never played it, though. You compared it. You asked me, when I asked you about it, you asked me if I'd played Marvel Champions. Why is that? Why that comparison?
I do find that they're very similar. I've only played Marvel Champions a few times. I started playing it last year. But they are very similar where your hero's playing with a hero deck. The major difference is that these are pre-generated decks and they don't change. Where Marvel Champions, it's a living card game.
The deck crafting is actually a big part.
Yeah.
People don't really love the pre-generated decks that get sent out. They're not arguably the best.
Right.
They're interesting. Maybe not the best. So this is number 4 for you.
Yes, this is number 4.
Do you own everything?
I think I may be missing some promos.
Okay. But that's it.
That's probably it. I have all of like the box expansions, anything like that. I have Mr. Raptorbot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's great.
I'm going to squeeze this over to the side as carefully as possible because this is precious. And if you want to grab one from behind you.
Now we're the top 3.
Number 3. If you've made it to this point, leave a comment. Whether you're and let us know what context you have. I would love to know from your fan base what they think your top 3 are, because they've followed along. There's some clues that have existed there. I've seen you talk about some of these games, so leave a comment down below and let us know that you paused the video to do that.
Yeah.
And we'll be back with you. Well, right now. I mean, because you just unpaused the video, so like literally now it was totally in your control. Number 3.
Number 3, which was my number 1 for so long, so it hurts to call it number 3. Arkham Horror.
It got dethroned?
My eyes might tear up when we talk about this. This was my first board game I ever played. This is a heavy game. And I was already a card player, so it was a little bit easier for me to jump into, but I played this at a friend's house, and I think the best way to introduce me to gaming and heavy games, he had it completely set up, and a lot through this game there are success checks, and he let me roll all the dice. So he would explain a lot of it, really walk me through, not make any of my decisions for me. I'm someone that will ask those, so I'll say, should I do this or that? So I'll look for advice. But he let me do the fun parts, and it brought me in so well.
It sounds like they celebrated the discovery part of the game, which is something I do with a lot of my favorites. Is once you love a game, it's so fun, because I'm sure you've done this now as well. Yeah. Like shared this with people and done that same thing where you're like, I just want to watch you mess up.
I just want to run it.
Yeah.
And then another really cool thing is in this game there's a mythos deck, so it's very heavy in the H.P. Lovecraft theme. And the mythos deck, different things will happen, and he let me read that as well. So it's a lot of the narrative, like how you like the flavor text.
Absolutely.
And the thing I love the most, and it's gonna be repeated through a lot of these, but is the story. So I loved what it was telling and what was happening to us, and some crazy stuff happens through these games. You're getting sucked in and out of gates. You're lost in time and space. Monsters are attacking you. It's very hectic. But so much fun. It's great. If you guys are interested in this one, I am sorry it's out of print.
Oh no. It's fair. It's fair.
I am sorry.
Is it even accessible, or is this like a grail game that a lot of people want and there's no demand for it even?
I think she's expensive now.
Okay.
I think if you're trying to find it secondhand somewhere, she is quite expensive.
And there's a 3rd edition.
Yeah.
Do you like the 3rd edition? Oh, that mournful look.
I
That
know.
was not the approval.
I prefer 2nd edition.
Do you know what
then after that, I would maybe
what
play Death
changed that made you back off?
May I swear?
Sure.
I feel like this was the first time we ever used this term, but 3rd edition, you feel like you're bored bitch. You have to do what the game makes you do. This thing flips up, and you don't have a choice. You have to go do that. And I feel like that game was very much, you're just walking through what it wants you to do, as opposed to feeling like you have agency, which is the most important thing for me in games, is that you are making the decision and that you can go left or right and you're choosing what you're doing.
So they might have like simplified and streamlined at the cost of player agency.
Yeah, and it's more like things are so dire, and it's almost like they're like, this is so important, you have to go do it, that they don't give you enough time to really play the game.
So if you've played episode 3, Chapter 3, version 3, I don't know what it's actually called.
3rd edition.
3rd edition. That seems like the correct term that I should have just started with. Don't maybe judge number 2 off of it.
And if you like 3rd edition, no shame.
A little bit of shame. Just a tiny.
I do think Cthulhu Death May Die is a great option if you are interested in this. They're not super similar, but the flavor is very similar, and they're both very strong co-op. So I think that's great.
Death May Die is if we're going to say like a Cthulhu genre game, Death May Die is the one that we have in our collection. We have the giant freaking model and everything like that. So Shira loved it. She says we cannot ever get rid of it.
Yeah, if you can't play this, I would maybe play that before 3rd edition.
Cool. Scrunch that over to the side, and I will try to grab another one that is actually my personal copy which is why it's offensively still in shrink wrap. I don't
I
open
begged
any...
for us to play the whole thing tonight.
She did. No, we went downstairs and she was like, oh man, still in shrink. Want to play right now? I mean, all night. I'll drive home tired. Don't even care. That was your personality right there.
We could.
I don't open games. It's one of the things, like, you walked in my basement and you're like, why do you have 100 games in shrink wrap?
I have to touch them. When I get them, I do it right away. I love organizing.
Until I'm ready to play, they stay so nicely packaged, or unboxed or something. All right. Yeah. Clank Legacy.
Yes.
Specifically.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Clank Legacy is done by Acquisitions Incorporated. If you guys don't know them, they do a lot of supplemental stuff for D&D. So they decided to make a legacy version of Clank. So if you may or may not know Clank, the general game usually is that there's a board and you're moving down into and underneath and then back out, and you're trying to get as much treasure as possible, and you're doing so with actions that you get through deck building and acquiring cards. And it can get kind of tricky and dangerous, that the more treasure you get, the more danger it is, and you got to get out in time. So the legacy version takes that and adds a whole story to it. And let me tell you, there is a cardporium filled with secret cards, and I just love anything about that in games. And when we get to my number one, it's going to be also what I love in games. But if I could be Hermione playing board games with my notes and my, my highlighters and my Post-its and my Sharpies, I have different color Sharpies for the different things we did in this. I just love tracking things, and it gives you so much to do. It changes completely. So you have stickers that you can add to different places on the board. You can name towns. Spoiler alert. There are just a bunch of different things that you get to do. You get to augment cards. You really create your own Clank based on your memories.
Did you play this through too as well?
Yeah, and we played it maybe in like 10 days. Because
this is one that Shira and I not only need to play because it's the top 100, but both of us have actually started previous campaigns of it and didn't finish. Because I had a group that just, the world shut down and we disbanded. And then for Shira, they got like 5 episodes in, and it was a little messy, and they didn't play it recently enough that like it just became more work to pull it out. Yeah. But I want to sit down, like you're saying, and in like 2 weeks, power through it with her.
When I fall in love, same thing happened in Robin Hood. When I fall in love with a game like this, I can't calm down. I can't not think about it, and I just have to keep going. Nice. I had to keep setting it up. So much
It's so funny hearing you talk about your preferences in games, because I love theme, love story, love flavor text, but I am not a point A to B to C. Like, you're talking about like knowing the cards that other players are using in Inish, or playing and knowing, like, digging through the decks and understanding the details on each card in Clank. And I'm sitting here being like, I go for whatever has the coolest picture and tells me the greatest story. It's funny because you're like, you're right on the edge of the hybrid. Like, all of your recommendations.
Rules, but I love when the game makes you do something that's thematic.
Yeah. It's cool. Like, I don't mind rules. I just, like, if you've seen gameplay videos on the channel, I will be okay missing rules for the sake of story.
Yeah.
Which it sounds like you want both in a perfect world.
Yes.
Which is great for me, because 1, it means we'll miss much less when we play together.
Yes.
And 2, all of your recommendations are like highly thematic, and I'm still sitting here going, oh, I'd like to play that. Oh, that sounds fantastic.
And one other thing I want to say about that one, it's very funny. They're very, very funny guys. Every card is hilarious. There's flavor text on all of them. They made all of it for the game. I'm really impressed with what they did.
We have your number one. Oh, I need to get into position for... Oh, man.
I love this big box things. Is anyone surprised?
I mean, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be.
Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven and I have had a journey. If you guys need to hear more about Gloomhaven, I'm sure there are better videos to explain it. It's a very heavy game. I don't know if explaining how you play it would make sense, but it is a progressive campaign game where you're going through scenarios, you're developing a town, you're playing through different characters that end up getting retired, and then you play new characters. And it has so many scenarios that you have a lot of branching paths. So you can close yourself out of a lot of things. You can decide what your team is going to be, if they're going to be good guys, bad guys, what they support, what they don't, who they align with. So I love all of that about it. And then, if you guys could see my tracking sheets, there's a beautiful printout one. If anyone is still playing Gloomhaven, there's a free printout where you can track a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Highly recommend it. It really saved me. And then another shout out, I use Foreteller for this, which is an audio narration. And they added a new part to it now where it will track your percentage. I believe the percentage is all scenarios. So I think right now we're only like 72% done, but we finished the game. And I think it includes the ones you can't
Side
do.
missions, other characters,
I
stuff
wish
like
it would
that.
kind of divvy it out if it knew you did one, but whatever.
Yeah.
But I love this game. There's so much to it. And I think for me, one of the most important journeys for this is that you have your own character, you make them, you love them, you start loving the game, and then your character retires, and they take it away from you. And that was my first time that I was like, okay, I'm playing the story of Gloomhaven, not Meg's story of Gloomhaven. Like, you still have to hit their story beats, and the story isn't going to change. So it's not too much like D&D where you can really shape where it goes. You're always going to play the story that it was meant to be. And it's all already there. So when I got forced into new characters, I really didn't like it. And then I did because... it's that thing where it's not my character.
A new box, it becomes re-special again.
Yeah. And then what ended up happening, there are cards that get shuffled in once you do retire, and some of them are bad. And my first character, bad things happened to him at the end. And again, that's what tells me, like, it's the story of Gloomhaven, and it's so unique that it allows you to have that emotional roller coaster and play through it, but you're not going to be able to change what happens. And I think those are the best games for me, that sometimes bad things happen in the story and it hurts and it makes you feel really emotional, but you can't change it, and it hurts in the moment, and then when you think about it, you're like, oh, I'm so happy it made me do that, though.
And for me, Gloomhaven, yes to everything that you just said. I haven't dove in as much as you have, but on top of that, you're talking about like the mechanics and how you actually play. It's a really cool, and I would argue innovative, especially when it came out, card mechanic in it, where you're choosing, you have a hand of actions that also act as your life, and you're choosing when you take strong abilities to sacrifice cards, what top and bottom abilities you play that sequence off of each other, how you coordinate with your team, and when you upgrade and kind of progress your deck. Yeah. And that's, for someone like your whole list, like I was just pointing out, is theme, story, player agency combined with real good crunchy mechanics. Like, nothing here is light. Nothing here is just flavor on top. And this is that. It
is really impressive how they did it, because even, having finished the game now, it is smooth the whole way through, that I feel like in Gloomhaven you have a deck of cards, and as you try to get your cards back, you have to banish some. And that's kind of your hit point. I mean, not your hit points, but it's kind of another way you can die. And it always felt well done. Like, it always felt like it was really smooth, whether or not, I mean, I would run out of cards and not like it, but it really felt like it was a well fleshed out game. Yeah. From the get-go. It's really great.
Cool.
I love it.
So there you have it. There is a top 10 from Professor Meg.
Yeah.
Shout out, I don't know, talk about what you do over on Instagram. Tell people to go follow you if they've watched to this point. They really should if they've seen to this point.
I do a lot of silly stuff. I enjoy trying to be funny, so I do a lot of, I'm doing funny videos now on Instagram. I do a lot of pictures. I basically post about the games that I love, because I have so many and I can only post about so much that basically, if you see my feed, that is my recommendation feed. I don't have time to post about games I don't like. They can't be in my feed. So yeah, anything I am posting about I really, really love, and I'm enjoying, and I'm having a great time just putting out what I love on the internet.
Cool. Well, swing over, like I said, link over to the Instagram, follow along, stay tuned, see if her top 10 lists, transforms, and if you've made it to this point, hit the subscribe button, because here's the thing. We have a pile of gameplay videos and some review videos coming down the road, and the better all of this does, the more we can, make this a thing. So, because we're going to hopefully come up and visit you.
That would be fun.
At some point.
You're definitely welcome.
And we want to convince, both of you to come back down and visit us.
I want to play more games.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Get out and play some games. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.